morning and welcome to Cover 2 Cook. We're on episode 106. We got some NFL news to talk about. We have the NBA recap as we're going to the NBA Finals. We also have the NHL as it's starting up tomorrow with the Stanley Cup. We got to talk about how we got there and who we expect to win. And then we have a little fun question that the social media people are answering. So why not Cover 2 Cook do it? So let's get it started.
Yeah. I was going to do a vertical jump there. Thank you, Socks.
Travel been to Indiana, and did Cover 2 Cook get you a good hotel?
Indiana? No, I'm in Louisiana. I'm here for Mardi Gras.
I know that this might be hard, but I don't know how much you remember Friday night since we left you damn near when you fell asleep.
I got my belly full, man. I was like, I warm covers and warm. I was like, I could go to sleep right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jack Dorsey.
Final answer?
Yes. All right.
This is going to be a long fucking day.
All right. Thank you so much for joining episode 106. We got NFL news, but first, we got to talk about this social media thing. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but people are talking about it. 100 British people versus 100 Americans. Straight street brawl. Who do you got winning that one? I want to see what Mr. Tim Cook thinks. 100 British, 100 Americans. Who do you got?
Who's coming up with this stuff? That's what I'd like to know. Are they just sitting in a cubicle? What they say? Oh, should we? What about two countries going at each other that don't like each other? Let's do the British and the United States. You know what? I might take the British. I don't know. We're become soft lately. This country's become soft.
Oh my!
The British, I think, I think they'll kick our butt. They're used to being hooligans over there in them soccer matches, and we're not. I'm telling you. I think I like the British. I'll slide that 2-1.
I'll take 100 SEC fans over any 100 soccer fans. I laugh because you ask, how did this probably start? It probably started in a cubicle. And it was probably a British person walked by an American and he was like, I could kick his ass. I bet 100 of him and 100 of me, and I could kick his ass, right?
Right.
And honestly, I laugh at hearing this because I've seen the British people talk about this, and they're like, oh, we're winning. We're easily winning this one. It was like, in what retrospect, right? Say that it's just, straight up street fight, right? Well, we got guns, you ain't. We're winning that one, right? You're bringing a knife to a gunfight, we're winning that one. Okay, maybe it's just hands, right? We're just going to fight with hands. Have you seen the South? Have you seen these corn-fed people? Have you met the Midwest? I'll take 60 O-linemen in the NFL versus 100. I'll take 200 British people. You're just not doing it. And it's funny because we're coming off the heels of 100 humans versus one ape.
Right.
Boys and girls, have we seen how the British are built? And have you seen how the Americans are built? We're whooping your ass up and down the street. I just thought it was hilarious. I had to see what you thought about that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the British, I mean, they're good boxers over there, too. You never know. You never know.
You're right, because we're good at UFC. So good luck with that boxing all day.
Hey, where did Conor McGregor come from?
Okay, that's one guy.
I think he's Irish. I think he's Irish, so.
Yeah, but still, it's one guy. Floyd Mayweather. Hello, thank you. Like, game over. Like, I just laughed because I saw this and I was like, I don't know if it's just because why not? Why not throw a little bit at each other? But it's like, yeah, we're whooping your ass. 100% of the time, we're whooping your ass. In other news, let's get to actual sports news. In NFL, Lions center Frank Ragnow, surprise retirement to focus on health. The guy's had many injuries over the past 4 years. The biggest one was a toe injury. He's still doing it. I think this is, when you hear about this, it's definitely a big thing of talking about offensive linemen and defensive linemen and the things that they have to put on their body to play this sport. The weight, the hands, the shoulders, the feet. People like the feet. You don't believe how many times they step on each other's feet while they're pass blocking, while they're run blocking, or even a linebacker coming through or whatever. I'm glad to hear it is, but again, that Super Bowl window just seems like it's closing and closing. You lose an offensive coordinator, you lose a defense coordinator, you lose the middle and the heart of your O-line as you're coming into spring training, OTAs. That one's tough. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I was kind of shocked too. And, we say his health. Is it all physically health and maybe a little bit of this mental health too?
Yep.
of the wear and tear of every year having to deal with an injury every year, whether it be a toe, whether it be a hand, whether it be a foot, whatever. Just the mental toll of these football players they have to go through for 16, 17 games. It takes them probably a lot of toll. And I think a lot of players nowadays they make their money and get out. They you know what? He could start a podcast and he'd be doing just fine. Or he could go be an entrepreneur and get in his hands in other things, business wise. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that. And I think we've talked about this before of players getting out at a younger age because there's just so many more other things out there in the world that you could do and not have to be in a car wreck every time the ball gets hyped.
Well, you got to think about this too. They're playing at a younger age. So what you used to play was the high schools now you're doing AAU or not AAU, but you're doing like the 7-on-7s. And I know for an offensive lineman that may not be the same, but you're doing lineman camps. So your summer's committed to it, your fall's committed to it, and then your off training, off season training with lifting, because like that's wear and tear that goes on this body. I also think too, like nobody's mindset playing the game of football is like, what is the long-term goals? Like, what am I going to deal with in 20 years? I mean, I think you talk about it as a person that played from kindergarten to college. Right. I wonder now what the long-term effects are going to be with that. I didn't think about that when I was playing football. I never thought about that. But once you take a season off or an off season like this situation where he's like, do I want to go to OTAs? Do I want to go through all this? And you see it now with some of these older players like Brett Favre was that way. Aaron Rodgers is this way. I'm not coming in during OTAs. I'm not doing it. Right. I've done my time. You know what I'm bringing to the field. I'll be ready when it's week 1. Yeah,
and as far as the team-wise, the Detroit Lions, that hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking an all-pro center that you didn't plan for in the draft. You didn't know about this until now. That you couldn't plan for it in their draft in April. And now all of a sudden you're going to be scrambling trying to find for a team that it's Super Bowl or bust for that team right now. I mean, you don't get me wrong, you lost both your coordinators. Let's see how that works out for you. But now you've lost both coordinators and your center. That's going to be tough for them to, and a tough division on top of that. Yeah. You got Green Bay, you got Chicago, you got Minnesota. You've got they're behind 8 ball big time.
Yeah, I definitely think the only other position I would say is as crucial as a center on the offense is a quarterback.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
like that's definitely a quarterback, but running back I would not say is as essential as a center because they're already talking now that they're going to move a guard that they drafted in second round to the center position if they can't pick someone up. That's how crucial this move was. I am happy that he is deciding to has health over anything. That is one thing that we've always talked about as fans, but we love our teams. We love the players that we watch, but at the same time, I would like to get to see them 20 years from now, 30 years from now, or whatever. So, in other news, Stephon Diggs returns to the Patriots practice after this boating video. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think he was pretty much told to come in. What I've seen out of, I've been watching the sports talk out of Boston, and the guy that does the sports talk, he's a midday one, has had inside information that pretty much said, either come in or we're cutting your ass.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. So get in here and get this under control. What's going on? Tell them what's going on and get it under control or else. And I don't think and this coach, Vrabel, is not going to put up with it. I mean, and he still may get cut out of this whole deal anyway.
Yeah,
and
I don't think
they spent this. Well, they paid $64 million for 3 years, or maybe it wasn't that. But they paid a pretty good dollar for him to come in, and he's coming off a knee injury on top of that. So that's another deal why he needed to come in. But I think he wanted to squash all the rumors going around that he may get cut if he doesn't come in.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get cut. I really don't, because out of this whole situation, it wasn't obvious of what was on the boating. It just was a bad optic. Let's be honest. Yep. There was no, paraphernalia, things like that could get you in trouble with the law. And I think that's where, but people are saying, well, this isn't Belichick's team anymore.
No, right.
But Vrabel comes from that situation, right? He doesn't come from that tree, but he comes from that situation. He knows what the Patriot way was. And don't act like he didn't get that job saying, I want to bring back the Patriot way. Right. So Stephon Diggs coming in, I've already seen that there's video of him at practice and he's running full speed. And they're like, this is game speed from. Yeah, he's also saying, I'm here to be a Patriot. So I think his situation there with Drake May is a great situation.
Right.
Just it's time to get in. You had your fun and you did it all. Get your ass to practice now and start showing to be the leader that we signed you to be a leader.
Well, and also too, Anthony, they don't have much as far as the wide receiver core that they have. So he's going to be their number one, plain and simple.
Yeah, which I think that's what he wanted ever since Buffalo was to be the number one.
Or Minnesota.
yeah, that too. Eagles have traded Bryce Huff to the 49ers. Now, Bryce Huff, a D end, I believe, out of them. Huff wasn't attending the OTAs. It kind of seemed like both people, the player and the team were on the same retrospect that there was going to be a trade happening. I do kind of surprised that it's 49ers with them having to be young and things like this. I just, this trade in my head was like, out of all teams, you could have told me 49ers. I'd been like, nah, probably not. Like they're gonna draft. They're gonna get cheap players off the free agency since they're paying all these other players. But it seems like 49ers said, hey, we'll still go get guys like this. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm not shocked on it because Hassan Reddick, there was the same ball game with that.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is a team that's not going to put up with it. You don't want to show up? Fine, we'll get rid of you. You want to go? Fine. I mean, this Howie Roseman is not. He doesn't put up with it. We got too good of players, too young. We got young players. We don't. If you don't want to be here, we'll move on from you. And I agree but the 49ers lost that. I can't think of the guy's name to Denver, their linebacker.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they needed somebody, and they did. It may be just a rental for this guy too. So who knows? Maybe it's a one and done deal with them, 1 year done. Who knows? But they had to go out and get somebody because they really don't have a whole lot on defense.
Yeah, I guess I don't know all the facts of whether he was sitting out or if it was like hey, you don't need to come because we're going to trade you. Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if that's what the situation is. I mean, obviously, you're the defending champs. So if you don't want to come to practice, that's on you. Like, we obviously don't need you because we just did it. But yeah, I mean, 49ers, I guess I'm still surprised that they're trying to wheel and deal when you got the Brock Purdy, you got the George Kittle, you got these big contracts that you just signed off on that, like, if this guy shows up, you're going to pay him. So are you though? Like, you know what I mean? So in other news,
maybe it's a 1 year, one and done deal too, Anthony, as far as they have the fourth easiest schedule in the NFL this year. Yeah. If they can get him for a 1 year deal and sneak into the playoffs, who knows?
Well, I think that division's theirs. I don't think the Rams are, and the Seahawks and Cardinals. I don't see any team that's going to compete. I really, and who knows? We got to wait and watch play football. But other Eagles news, Saquon Barkley is going to be the cover of Madden 26, and it's going to be the picture of him backwards hurtling in that one. What do you think about this one?
I like it. I like it. I mean, that's a perfect. If you're going to have him on there, it's got to be that play there. It's got to be that play. I mean, the backwards hurdle, it's a no-brainer on that one if you're going to have him on it.
Yeah, I also think like that play will. They added it into Madden, right? They added the things. I think when you think about it, you may see it now more often. And honestly, too, why I say it is because your back's to the defense. Is someone going to jump? Because if someone jumps again, you're going to get flipped. And even when they were taking the picture, Saquon was jumping too high. They were telling him, hey, you got to get a little bit lower. And they're like, because now you're getting out of the picture frame of what the person is. Wow. And it was like, that just shows how great of an athlete he is. Now, if I'm an Eagles fan, no, Saquon, don't do the cover because Madden is notorious for having people get injured. Christian McCaffrey was last year. Wait, did he play last year? I don't know because half the time he was with his Achilles and things. Saquon has put tons of money into his body, just like Derrick Henry has, where they want to be, longevity and things like that. Great picture. It's great, but if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm sitting there on pins and needles for this. Yeah, like Jalen Hurts. Throw out Jalen Hurts. I don't care. Like, do A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I don't care. But Saquon, the guy that we just put more money into. But I definitely think the picture is the only picture you could think of for Saquon. He doesn't have that signature touchdown or anything like that. But that play will always be remembered for him.
Almost definitely.
All right, we have to move to the NHL. So NHL is finally made it to the Stanley Cup, but how did we get there? On Thursday night, Edmonton beat Dallas to win the series. They won 6-3. Now, this is a repeat Stanley Cup appearance. No. If you're thinking, we've seen this before, yes, we have seen this before. We are going into Florida versus Edmonton. That starts tomorrow night. When you're watching it, it'll be on tonight. Florida versus Edmonton. What does Florida got to do it again? I got 4 or 5 things that I think they have to do. First one, obvious one, contain Connor McDavid and Draisaitl or whatever his name is.
Yep. Right.
You have to. The speed of these two players are deadly. So the only way to beat speed is physicality. I've said this multiple times. You got to be physical with these guys. Can't let them run. And I know it's funny because they're on ice, but you can't let them skate. You got to get them at the blue line. Get ahead of it before they get their momentum. Number 2, Marchand has been a huge difference on that third line. I think that third line for Florida is going to be a difference maker. When you look at teams, first and 2 lines can be very comparable, right? Third lines are going to be the difference maker in this one. You have Marchand on line 3. That just shows the depth of Florida Panthers. When you look at the third line of the Florida Panthers versus the third line of Edmonton, you're going to be like, oh, wow, these guys are different. They have to show that they are that better. And they have been. Florida has done that throughout this series. I will say also, like, Marchand has been a great addition for them. But you know what Marchand can do as well? Physicality. So yet alone are you doing in the first 2 lines to slow down the fast guys. The third one is an intimidation factor. And I think that's what they'll have to do. Sergei Bobrovsky has to be Serge. And what I mean by that is he has to be the shield that blocks this. Now, he has had a great playoff so far. But can he keep this up against a fast Edmonton team that's going to put a lot of pucks on the net and a lot of great players? Connor McDavid is a genius out there. And he can get it involved, whether it's off the puck or get it to a player that can score. He has to have those timely saves that has kept him in every game so far. Also, Florida has to use their physicality to get to Skinner's head. Now, if you don't know who Skinner is the goalie for Edmonton. They've done this in every series. They've done it where they've got close to the goalie, bumped into him, things like that. It gets in their head. I think if they can get to his head, you saw it in that first Carolina game where the guy hit a puck at Marchand. That series was over that moment. Yeah. If they can get into Edmonton's head, now Edmonton's a little bit used to this, so it's going to take more than just a bluff hit to get into your head. But they have to find a way to get into Skinner's head because he has been playing very well as well. And the final, stay out of the penalty box. Now, both teams can consider this, obviously, as a factor. Right. But Florida, if you get into penalty problems, McJesus and Draisaitl will make you pay. I don't care if you got the physicality. When you got one less player on that ice, you can hit the guy into the boards, glass shatter. You can hit him in the 10th row. I don't care. That means there's now 2 people open, right? When you do things like that, you have to make sure that you stay out of the penalty box. I think both teams can benefit from this, but I just think McDavid. What do you think about this series going into it?
I think it's going to be the key is McDavid and Draisaitl's got to get going.
Yeah.
If they shut them down, the series is over.
Yep.
If Florida can play that defense like they've been playing all playoffs, it could be a long series for Edmonton because they like to skate up and down the ice. I mean, their offense is good. But also, too, they're going to play good defense as well. I mean, they got to play better defense. Last year they didn't, and Florida can shut you down like that. Yeah. I mean, they've got a great defense. Now you got Marchand on your third line and playing defense, and you better get to. I think Florida could be had if they could get to Bobrovsky early. If they can get to him early, they think they got a shot. They got to play good defense and get to Bobrovsky early. If they don't, it could be a short series for Edmonton.
Well, and you got to remember, last year they played to a Game 7. So this is not a team that got swept in the Stanley Cup last year. Right. This was a Game 7 type of atmosphere for them. I just feel like the Florida Panthers have got better. And it's always surprising to see a team win it and then come back and be better than what they were.
Right.
Now, at the same time, do I think Edmonton is better than last year? Yes, I do truly. But who took the bigger step? And I think you think Florida. I called Florida like when this whole hockey started, not as a hockey, I don't know much about hockey. I was like, Florida looks good. I like them. I'm going to take them. That's why I gave the advantages. But do not get me wrong. Edmonton has been here. They know what they're doing. They got a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder since they lost last year. I just think when you say get to Bobowski or whatever, Serge, whenever you get to him, not one team has yet. So good luck.
I know.
You're going to have to be the team that does it. I think this is where, when we talked about before the Stanley Cups, or when the playoffs started, goaltending and power plays. And that's what Florida's obviously lived and died off of. And the goalie's been absolutely solid since day one.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's a good goalie. I mean, I put him right up there with the goalie for Tampa Bay, Velasquez or whatever his name is. He's right there. I mean, they're 1A, 1B. I think they're just as good. Both them guys in Florida are very good. I mean, in the state of Florida, they're very good. Velasquez.
Yeah. Well, Edmonton is actually the favorite going into the Stanley Cup, which is surprising. It's not by much. I think they're minus 115, and Florida's like a minus 105 or something like that. It's not much different, right? But who do you have winning this Stanley Cup?
I'm going to go with Edmonton.
Wow.
I'm going to root for Edmonton. I think Florida wins, but I think I'm going to root for Edmonton. I think it's. You'll want to see Draisaitl and McDavid do well, and they did well. They just didn't do well enough because they got beat in the 7th game. But I'm going to root for Edmonton. I'm going to go. Oh, Canada.
Well, no way. It is funny because we did talk about that before we're coming into the the playoffs about how many Canadian teams versus American teams, and now you got the Canada versus U.S. in this matchup again. I don't think anyone was picking Edmonton in that. I think there was a lot of Winnipeg and things like Toronto, possibly even if they could ever get off their high horse. I'm taking Panthers all day. I just think the way they know what each team knows each other. So it's going to come down to who has better playmakers. And I think McJesus is great, if not one of the best of all time. But it's one player, and Draisaitl's 2 players. Yeah. We're talking about a third line, and you got Marchand. That's some of that shit that you make in franchise mode in NHL, where you make your first 3 lines like absolute all-star players. I just think the Panthers got this one going into it. We'll have to see. I'm super excited about it. It is unfortunate that it seems like it's one day and then a couple days off, and one day, couple days off after that. So,
and we may have to talk about that, Anthony, because these finals, both of them, NBA and the NHL, they play one day, and then they might play 2 or 3 days later, and then they may play a day after, and they play. Stop! You're extending this way too long. Too long.
Yeah. Well, and all it does is just gets repeat conversations. Because that's all you're going to turn on ESPN for the next 2 days after the games. It's just the same shit that you heard the day before.
Yep.
Well, speaking of that, let's move on to the NBA. So how did we get to where we're at with the NBA Finals? We will talk more of the NBA Finals on Thursday's podcast, but give me a recap getting to that.
Game 5, Brunson and Townsend had 56 points combined as they stave off elimination last Thursday night on 111-94 win. The Knicks finally won the first time on their home court. The Knicks went back to their Game 3 lineup, putting Mitchell Robinson in, which we'll talk about Game 6. Putting Mitchell Robinson back in the starting lineup and moving Towns to the forward position. Yeah. So that was kind of good. It helped them out. It seemed like they played a lot better defense than the night before, Game 4. They only gave up 45 points and a half, where the Game 4, they gave up 43 points in the first quarter.
Yeah.
So you could just tell it was a do or die situation. They also helped Halliburton to 8 points, which is big. But the big story is Brunson coming on strong. He had 14 first quarter points, and then he sits down and Towns comes in, and it just seemed like they played better. And then we got to Game 6. I watched this game. I've been watching these games. If it wasn't for Mitchell Robinson in the first quarter, this game would have been a blowout in the first half.
Yep.
He had 5 offensive rebounds and I think 6 points in the first quarter. If it wasn't for him, they would have got blown out of the gym, out of the arena. You know, it was close at halftime. They're only down 4. And then it seemed like Indiana went, okay, enough screwing around with this team. And they just came out with a blitz. I mean, I think it was a 9-0 run. Next thing you know, they're up by 13, and they just pulled away. They looked tired. They couldn't hit any shots outside. Their fast break defense was atrocious. I mean, they gave up 31 fast break points.
Yeah.
That's terrible. This Indiana team is a very good team, but this Knicks team, they constructed this team to win now when they got Cat. And it just doesn't seem like they look tired. And they decided to go, I think, too late with their bench. They started opening up their bench around, I think, game 3 or game 4. And I think it was too late. These guys are tired. And Cat just looked, I mean, he couldn't hit any outside shots. They would just bottle him up on the defensive end. I mean, he was flopping around. It was just like, they were just, I mean, you know.
I think it was Indiana saying, we're not going back to New York. We're not doing this.
Well, I think if they would have went back, I think the Knicks would have won. I really do. And they cut it it got up to 16. They cut the lead back to 7 and game 6, and then they just poured it on. You know, it was just too many turnovers for the Knicks, and they just weren't hitting any key shots.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree.
And so now we've got an OKC Indiana finals.
Well, and how did you feel about the Tyrese Halliburton not winning the Eastern Conference MVP?
I seen a meme today. It was funny. It must have been like a celebrity, during the All-Star game they have a celebrity game, and one of the guys thought that he won.
Drewski.
They were bringing,
Drewski. That's his name. Yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't win. And then another guy came in and stole the ball and kind of held it up. That's exactly what I thought with Halliburton. Do I think Halliburton should have won? Yes, because I think he was the most consistent basketball player. But Siakam was he just played at the right time. And the voting was close. I guess there's like 9 reporters that vote on this, and 5 of it went to Siakam, 4 went to Halliburton.
Yeah,
so it was really close.
I don't understand it because it's not about who had the better moments. It's about who was more consistent and better player throughout this thing. And
I agree.
Tyrese Halliburton, from start to finish, was the better player because what you remember Siakam from in these moments is when he decided to play. Right. There was moments where he didn't play very well, but Tyrese Halliburton played well. And it wasn't like there was a game where you went back and you were like, Tyrese Halliburton was shut down. Like, he just wasn't. I mean, yes, did he not score 40, 50 points? But he is the guy that was running that offense. He's the guy that's running the fast break. He's the one throwing the alley-oops and the big dunks. He is the heart of the Indiana. So I feel bad that he even took a step forward. But didn't we just see this last year in the NBA Finals? Yeah. When Jason Tatum was obviously the MVP.
Yeah.
Obvious. And they gave it to Jaylen Brown. And people were like, oh, well, you know, he did. If you have to advocate for someone to be the MVP, they weren't the MVP. Right. We all knew who it was.
Yeah, it was just like he started walking up and he's kind of walking and going through the crowd. Next thing you know, they said, and he just kind of took a couple steps back. He said, okay. You know, he was kind of, but yeah, and I mean, Halliburton had a couple bad games. I mean, he had an 8-point game, I think was a game 5. But other than that, he was consistent. And he's the straw that stirs the drink. Yeah. If you don't have him, I don't think you're as far as where you went.
And don't get me wrong, Siakam is the difference where they're at right now.
Right.
But Tyrese Halliburton is the reason they're even relevant. So let's just be, you know.
If he doesn't hit that key shot in game 1, I don't think they win the series. Yeah. I think that goes back to they lose that game, and I think in game 7 they go back to New York.
That was the punch. I mean, that was literally the right hook to let New York, we're going to win this series. We're going to come after you. I mean, just to let you know, like, what did you think, or I don't know if you heard or not, about Pat McAfee during Game 4 in Indiana? They gave him the mic. So they do this sometimes with fans. They'll give them a mic. Gives them the mic, and obviously he says, you know, we got to get for our guys and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, and we got these city folks here. We got Timothy Charlemagne. We got Ben Stiller. We got Spike Lee. We got to send these city folks home with their ears ringing, or send their asses home with their ears ringing. Right. Obviously sets up a huge stir. Ben Stiller and them are like, well, yeah, we're city folk, but we wanted to come to the Midwest to watch a game, blah, blah, blah. You can tell who's played sports and who hasn't. Like, whatever. But Pat McAfee obviously rides with it, loves it. He's a fighter for Indianapolis, right? Whether it comes to the Colts, the Fever, to the obviously now the Pacers. He's always been a ride or die. But I laughed at Ben Stiller got shook by that. That just shows the confidence that Indiana's like, we're just happy to be here. New York's like, we expect to be here, and we're now disappointed.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh my, I was like, yeah, he just, and McAfee's hot right now.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got the voice. He's on ESPN. He's on every day. He can promote, or he
WWE.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, his spotlight is on him every day, whether he be on his own show or whatever. So he could kind of, and maybe Stiller's like, yeah, okay, all right, you know.
Well, and supposedly he was supposed to be there for Game 3 and do this, but he kind of slept through it because that was the same day as the Indianapolis 500, and got a little boozed
tipsy.
up, and said he didn't make it to the game. But in other news with this, we hear today that Tom Thibodeau gets fired from the Knicks. Do you think that was a good firing?
I think it's a good firing because I think they know what the landscape of the Eastern Conference is like. And it's time to make a run. Boston, Tatum's not going to probably play at all next year. Who knows where Giannis is going to be at?
Yep.
It's yours to the taking. I did hear, I mean, they had the talent this year. They really did. They just didn't go far. And it wasn't because of Thibodeau that they didn't. He's very strict. He's very, this is how things are going to go. Boom, boom, boom. And it may come back and bite him in the ass. Yeah. But I think a lot of it has to do with that Eastern Conference is wide open. Let's see if we can go get a coach that can push these people over the top. I know that blindsided Brunson because they interviewed Brunson at the end of Saturday night's game. And he's like, yeah, why you even ask this question? He's our coach. What's he supposed to say that? Right after a game that what they lost. But I don't know. I
think when you look at this, I don't understand the firing. Like, do I think he should have subbed more? Yes, and that's stuff. But that's Tom Thibodeau basketball, and that's what got you guys to where you are. You are relevant because of this coach. Let's be 100% honest. Mm-hmm. You went out and got Cat because you guys started having success because you had Tom. Like, I think when you look at why they didn't succeed in this playoffs is because of the players, not so much the coach. And when I think about that is Jalen Brunson is a great scorer.
Right.
But he's not a good defensive player.
No.
He is not. And that's the difference between what we saw in Indiana with I can't say his name, Siakam or whatever.
Yeah, Siakam. Yeah.
Bringing him in, he brings the defensive side with also scoring the ball. That's what they needed. Cat was never going to be that guy for them. So when you look at the moves they made, I blame them more the GM than I blame the coach. And to fire a coach that now just took you guys, like, it's such a, we didn't win, so I'm going to take my basketball and run kind of moment. And that's New York Knicks. And that's why they're never successful. And it's why we get to love and bathe in their tears, is because I look at it, and it's like, as a Chicago Bulls fan, we saw him. I still blame him for the D Rose injury. I don't have a good word to say about him until this moment. And then I'm like, you know what? That's not on him. That was on the Knicks.
Well, too, also, Anthony.
Yeah, it looks like you're kind of going out real quick. Once you come back, I'll let you go. But yeah, I think with Thibodeau, it doesn't make sense, the firing. It's New York Knicks being the New York Knicks. And guess what? Unfortunately, this is where you're going to end up, is having to rebuild every year or having to do this. I just don't think you put your guy around Jalen Brunson and think that he's going to be able to do it. But all right, I don't think we're going to have Mr. Tim Cook at the end. And we kind of got our 30 minutes in, so we want to thank all of our fans for joining. This is episode 106. We gave some NFL, some NBA, NHL, and gave a social media platform conversation. We'll be back on Thursday where we're going to talk about more of the NBA as the NBA finals start on Thursday night. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you on Thursday.